Hey guys, this is Kevin from News Rocky coming to you live here from the downtown Norwich Forward TV studio in downtown Norwich, Connecticut. That's right. Hey, today we're going to have a really cool guest. We're going to be talking to Tim Riley. This is going to be an interesting conversation. An activist. Actually, he was a carpenter who turned into a government accountability activist here in Connecticut. He has some amazing affiliations across the country with other activists. He's going to share his stories about his fights here in Connecticut and abroad. We'll get in the ring with Tim in a moment.
Sir, read the law. It's right there in your hand.
The Activism News Network is now online.
Yeah, easily over 100.
What's the name of your badge number?
Subject 97, he's fishing. He also has an AR-15 and a Glock.
And there we go. That's the intro to Tim Riley. Tim, welcome to the show, News Rocky. How are you today? And what's going on in the world of Tim Riley and your activism here in Connecticut? How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much for having me today. I appreciate it. Things are going wonderfully well. Tyrant Slayer Studios is doing remarkably well on YouTube. Activism News Network is tracking along very nicely here on Roku. The state of Connecticut is ripe with corruption and tyranny, unfortunately, and many of our public servants often forget that they serve the public. They serve the needs of the people. They're there serving us on a regular basis, and unfortunately, it seems someone has to step up and remind these folks who they're working for and what their purpose is. And I am very humbled to become part of Activism News Network and create the network and relationships that I've had with these folks. I am essentially allied with 21 other auditors, First Amendment auditors, Second Amendment auditors, government accountability activists, press correspondents, if you will, journalists, gonzo journalists, investigative journalists, from around the nation. And we've done tremendously well in our cooperative venture together as Activism News Network. And I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be working with them. And I'm very proud to be representing the Northeast sector of the United States here in New England, the state of Connecticut in particular. There are a number of other folks in my immediate area here who are interested in getting involved in the community. However, they've been apprehensive due to the experiences they've had upon trying to embark on such an endeavor, between being illegally incarcerated or just harassed by our public servants, police, local and state police. These guys have kind of become recluse. And since I started last May of 2020, these folks have been so kind to and reached out to me. And we've actually gone out on occasion, and I've kind of inspired them and educated them a little bit, and they're a little more comfortable. And I believe they've got their own things going on now, and that's what it's all about. It's about growing awareness, education, and holding our public servants accountable and even liable. There was big talk around the country about, doing away with, what's the term? You'll have to forgive me here. Qualified immunity. Abolish qualified immunity was a big deal, and it means that you can hold your public servant accountable when he or she really screws up royally.
So you were supportive here in Connecticut, Tim, of the qualified immunity bill that was passed last year in 2020 here in Connecticut?
I would have to actually read up on it. I don't know that I've actually taken the time to in detail thoroughly review that bill. I would have to take a look at that before I answered that on a platform like this.
But in general, the qualified immunity concept is something that you certainly wrap around. You know, Tim, I want to say to you, just as we get going in here, in your introduction to the listeners of News Rocky, we appreciate. There's no surprise, and you and I had a chance to talk before this interview. You know, I'm a big back the blue guy. I'm a supporter. I had 21 years in the prison system, and you know, one of the things we do on this show is certainly highlight those great accomplishments of many of the great men and women in blue who work across the state of Connecticut and this country. I do know that there is a small percentage, in my opinion, of those who really don't follow the rules. We saw some of that this past summer. Obviously, George Floyd ignited something in this country. How much of that energy off of George Floyd and that incident with Black Lives Matters has inspired your movement and your energy going forward in this space?
Well, it had a tremendous impact on the attention, and perhaps played a somewhat of a role in the growth of the channel. I didn't publish my first bit of content until May of 2020. I know the George Floyd incident happened shortly thereafter, somewhere around that time. And I did come across a huge part of the community that was working hard on that and created a prosperous relationship with them. But my experience, my personal experience, is more where my motivation for this has come from. George Floyd obviously plays a role. There's been a number of things that have happened over the last 12 years. We could spend hours talking about these things that are all truly inspiring. But to be honest, it was mostly my personal experience in the state of Connecticut and with law enforcement that motivated me to do this. I was inspired by other members in the community who were more focused on the George Floyd incidents and things of that nature. And a great guy, Joe Cool, he's known on YouTube as Joe Cool, and he's out there in Chicago, and he works diligently with another auditor, Disorderly Product News, and they cover a lot of that sort of stuff. They talk about racism a lot, and inequality and diversity and things of that nature, and they do it quite well, and they got a great thing going for them.
So when you look at this this group of folks that are out here in this space, you have a lot of different personalities, a lot of different causes that people are actually out there kind of fighting for, and trying to hold different levels of responsibility for different levels of authority. One of the things I find interesting in your story, you are a conservative libertarian without representation, in your words. My allegiance is to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, not a political party. Do you think this political system here in the state of Connecticut, possibly, and maybe across this country, has really kind of weakened the rights of the people, and this is what's inspired you as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen the Constitution be eroded by every single president of my lifetime. I, as a young man, couldn't wait to register as a Republican. I was not as aware. I was very ignorant. I was very immature, and I was not as educated. And, you know, you kind of eat what your mother feeds you, or your father feeds you, if you will. So, you know, if you're born in a Yankee fan house, you're going to be a Yankee fan. If you're born in a Republican household, and
actually, no, I was born to two hippie Democrats, and I became a Republican, just for the record.
Wow. Well,
I was like Alex Keaton. I used to carry my little briefcase to school every day. True story.
There is an exception to the rule, of course. Yep. But, you know, in a general statement, you know, that's how it was in my home. So I was eager to become a Republican. And it wasn't until 9/11 happened that I kind of really started looking at things a little differently. I actually started watching C-SPAN on a regular basis. I'm reading Senate bills. I've read the Constitution, you know, 3 times a year just to keep up, you know, keep fresh. And you know, I start reading state statutes and policies, and I'm watching town council meetings and things of that nature. And what I concluded is the Republicans and the Democrats, in my observations, don't seem to be beholden to the people at all. There seems to be a lot of special interests going on, unions and backroom deals between the state. I mean, even the way that Governor Lamont, I'll respectfully say, is handling the COVID crisis. You know, you've got the out-of-state consulting firms, you've got unaccountable, unelected czars, if you will, handling things. You know, and this sort of self-destructive, very economically detrimental sort of handling of our state by both sides certainly hurts the people. And I don't think the people ever truly have a good candidate to choose between. You know, I mean, no one really has anyone good to vote for here. And it doesn't seem like anyone's going to step up to the plate and run for the appropriate offices and be surrounded with the appropriate people to be successful in that endeavor to actually change things.
Do you think
You know,
Donald Trump was a good president for this country at a time, certainly that was facing some great changes and in the way that this country moves forward? What's your opinion of Trump now,
to be
the
honest,
former president?
yeah, I think Donald Trump was, the timing of his presidency was absolutely required here. I think he really gave folks like me, the old Ron Paul cheerleaders, you know, like there was nobody that come onto the spotlight since Ron Paul in 2012 until Donald Trump ran. And as far as can tell, Donald Trump seemed to me, in my opinion and in my observations, he seemed to me to be the first real president since John F. Kennedy. Like he was really trying to do real things, and he was tilting the apple cart, and he was sneering at the establishment, and he was really fighting for and representing the people. That's how I truly felt. I truly believed in Donald Trump. I'm not a bootlicker. I didn't agree with every single thing that he did. I didn't agree with all of his policies. You can't lock yourself in an echo chamber, and
Right.
Nobody's perfect.
No.
So yeah, I really think that Donald Trump played a pivotal role in the economy. If anything else, out of that presidency, we could talk about what he did to the economy and how badly that was needed.
I think the other big
Everybody's
issue, Tim, is we didn't go to war. We didn't lose a
That's
soldier
right.
in war. We didn't hit a war in those 4 years, and that's an accomplishment that the corporate media won't talk on. Let me ask you, in regards to sort of kind of carrying on with that conversation, I sort of envision, Tim, and I know this is going to be a little satire here, so bear with my ignorance here, but I see this group of you folks kind of like Dr. Evil running the meeting, and I'm not being mean-spirited, but you're down in the meeting room with all the activists and whatever way it works, and sort of are you actually finding yourself differing opinions? Like, in other words, you have that position you take. You say you're not a bootlicker of the Trump administration, but you still supported some of the things. I'm sure you're sitting sometimes qualifying the next efforts you put forward for this your work as far as activism, and you might be working with the Black Lives Matters. How do you maneuver that when you have these total different personalities with the same objective?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because I think it's very important for people on opposing.
I didn't mean to call you
sides.
Dr. Evil either. You know what I mean? I'm just joking.
Oh, I love the metaphor. Very, very well articulated, sir. And I sincerely appreciate the question.
Yeah.
It's a very good question. I've actually, I am great friends. I was called a racist and a bigot and a list of names by some activists within the network that I'm working in before we actually created the network, Activism News Network. And between open panel discussions on YouTube and Zoom meetings and things of that nature, Facebook and all that stuff, these folks are my best friends now. And, they know I'm not racist, but they are very Black Lives Matter oriented. They are absolutely, they hold a great disdain for Donald Trump. They were very much pro Democrat officials and not libertarian in any sense. And it's fine. It's fine. I have no problem creating relationships and listening to what these folks have to share, and I share it with them. And they have no problem listening and communicating with me. At the end of the day, we are still greatest friends. We are very productive colleagues. And, I think that unto itself needs to become more of the very fabric that is the culture of America today. Everybody, like, once there's a difference of opinion, everybody seems to just, that's it. There can't be any friendship. Blocking is a thing on social media. It's just ridiculous and out of control. And I think it needs to be said that it's now is the time to have these important conversations. You're not allowed to talk politics and religion at the bar or at the dinner table or during Thanksgiving or at Christmas. And, the guy that does have the audacity to do that gets shunned by the family or thrown away from the table, whatever's clever. Mm-hmm. Now we need to talk. Now is the time to have conversations with people from opposing sides of the aisle so that we can actually have a solution-based conversation to the problems that are going to continue to plague us as long as we fail to address them.
You bring up a really interesting point, and there's a turning point here for the News Rocky show, and we had a chance to talk about it. And, I don't know if you realize how much backlash I've been getting from folks with regards to the Alex Jones show that just aired. And obviously that's going to be something I'll be dealing with. A lot of the folks I actually served with in the state house as a state representative are very much distancing themselves from me now because I brought Alex Jones on the show. I find this to be the most repulsive part of where we are in America today. I mean, the fact of the matter is I don't agree with everything you're doing, right? I'm clear. I am a pro-police person and probably to a fault in a sense, but I'm here to respect and appreciate what you have to say and share your story, right? So if we can talk, we can figure it out. We can try to work towards something, but people definitely want to block that conversation. I wonder what it's more about. Is it more about the control so they don't kind of, suffer any loss of control? Or is it more about, we're just comfortable around the people that we're comfortable and we can't tiptoe into the tulip, so to speak, as Tiny Tim said, and try to figure it out. I do want to ask you in regards to the police, Tim. You've had many incidents where, and I call them incidents where I would call them investigations. Is that a better word?
Yes.
Okay. Your investigations bring you into lots of times where you actually have live footage of you recording conversations with law enforcement professionals. Explain a little bit talk about your first one that you went through, and then let's talk into a few of the more highlighted ones that you've had experiences with. And I want to follow that up with some questions in regards to the police after I hear a couple of those stories.
Yeah, well, you as a First Amendment auditor, unlike the health department, for example, the health department will call a restaurant and say, hey, we're going to be coming down next Wednesday, make sure everything's spick and span. We want to see a nice, clean place to give you a good review there. Unlike the health department, First Amendment auditors, we can't show up announced. The element of surprise is absolutely part of the job. I can't let the police department know that I'm coming if they've got their lobby locked and they've got a sign on the door that says they're not doing fingerprinting, and that's essentially obstructing my right to bear arms. I can't get my permit, or I can't talk to the chief of police and give them fingerprints because they're not doing it due to COVID or something to that effect. If I'm going to investigate something like that, I'm not going to call. I'm going to show up. I'm going to go live, and I'm going to expect a problem. I'm hoping that there won't be a problem, but I'm expecting to have a problem. A good audit would consist of having no problem, being allowed to enter the lobby, the public lobby, and film the public officials, our public officials, in the course of their public duties, perhaps ask some questions about concerns that have been addressed to me by members of the public, and see if they can answer. And in most engagements, in Connecticut, it goes well, especially if you're out with somebody else. It's a little different if you go out by yourself. But if you've got some support and you've got additional cameras and other folks with you, the police tend to be very, very receptive to it. And they I've been thanked by officers in uniform for the education I can provide to them. But I've also been berated and, told I need to leave. I've had officers threaten to trespass me from public property. And that doesn't make this guy a bad officer or a tyrant, if you will. It just makes him, perhaps he's unaware. So if I make this man aware of, hey, you can't, trespass me from public property unless I commit a crime, otherwise it's an illegal trespass, and I explain that to him. If he concedes, that's a successful engagement that transpired or grew out of my original my origin of business there, my original purpose there. You know, I might have been there to just see if I could take pictures or look inside of police vehicles. Or, for example, I went live and went down to the military submarine base out in Groton, New London. And I walked right up to the line of demarcation and set up my tripod in front of those guards. And they immediately told me, you can't do that. You can't film the public. You can't film the front of this installation here. This is a military installation. This is a secured area. And I asked him, I said, is this your line of demarcation? He said, yes. I said, as long as I'm on this side of the line of demarcation, I'm on public property and I can take photos and video of anything I could see from within public. You know, you can't trespass my eyes, right? You know, thank you for your service. And we're just out here exercising our rights to see if we can exercise our First Amendment right to press. And
do you ever, Tim, do you ever feel bad like you might just be an agitator or something? You might be, that's how it's perceived, and you know, this male or female officer or whomever might just be trying to do their job, and that's the instructions they're getting. Do you ever feel bad for them when you're kind of putting them in that position?
I understand that criticism, but one of the more common engagements I have with people leaving their responses and their thoughts about my videos is they love my decorum. They can see I'm not out there being inflammatory. I'm not being an antagonist. I remain very calm. I take a deep breath and I think before I speak. I do not allow my emotions when I'm out there doing this to dictate my mannerisms or my response to an officer, even if he is or she is being egregious. And people have complimented me on how I handle things. I don't go out and be inflammatory. The breakdown I have with our public servants is they just think, you know, you don't have the right to videotape me. You know, when I went into the Department of Revenue Services, 450 Columbus Boulevard, downtown Hartford, to address an issue I had with my child tax credit, and get answers that they were not willing to give me over the phone. I drove right out there and I brought my camera with me, not to be an antagonist, but to create an objective record of what was being said by my public employee, because my public servant, because what they say on the phone sometimes isn't the same as what they said in the letter. Or, you know, I just want everything to make sense. I want answers that are going to remain the same answer 2 weeks later. You know, I want accountability. So I showed up with a camera, and unfortunately, because I was wearing a MAGA hat, they refused to service me. They had a problem with the camera.
Wait, Tim, because you had on a MAGA hat, and obviously that's sort of connection to Donald Trump, the former 45th president. Do you think that was one or the prevailing reason they denied you access or service?
It was absolutely one of three known reasons why they denied me services. They allowed me into the building.
When did this happen, Tim?
This was in April or May of 2020.
Very interesting. I wish we're going to have to talk a little more about that. Did you have, and I don't want to speed you up, but, you know, we are sensitive time, and this is a beginning, I think, Tim, to a relationship. We're going to keep calling you back, hopefully, to come on the show and have some more conversations and collaborate. So out of that incident, did you get the opportunity to get heard? How did they handle you with the MAGA hat on?
They left me sitting in the lobby for about 45 minutes and just refused to serve me. The entire floor stopped working, and every single employee went to the back left corner of that department and pointed at me and talked about me, and the police start gathering around. I could see security building up in the lobby. The very nice and very professional private, third-party security personnel, the female that was running the desk there, the hub, she was very great. And she was like, everybody is involved. Why are you doing this if you know they're going to get you in trouble? I said, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm here to ask questions and get answers. And this is how I'm being treated. And I didn't know why. Security came to me about 30, 40 minutes in and said, why are you here? What's your business here? Like, they had no idea who I was, but they've all been talking about me for the last 40 minutes.
What was the outcome, Tim, of that incident?
Basically, the guard told me that they didn't like the fact that I was wearing my hat and they didn't like my camera. So to finish my business as quickly as I could and leave, I basically asked my questions. I got 0 answers. I left them with some documentation to retain copies of, and a police officer come up behind me, essentially like escorted me out of the building without officially escorting me out of the building. They locked the door behind me, and that was it. And I still to this day haven't gotten any answers.
So did you call your state representative, senator? Have you reached out
I did write
to
a
the
couple
governor's
letters.
office?
Yeah, I did write a couple of letters, but it wasn't my first instinct. My first instinct is I've got to go back there. And I've got to get more content.
Let me ask you, Tim, though, on this, and this is just kind of the conversation. Again, guys, you're listening to News Rocky here. That's your host, Kevin, and we got Tim Riley on with us, an activist here in the state of Connecticut, really challenging his First Amendment rights and his ability to really sort of go through the system and navigate through these different agencies. Not that I'm not like waving Tim's flag, but I do think it's an interesting, intriguing story. Specifically, Tim, to this story, do you think if you had a Black Lives Matters hat on, would you have been treated differently in that incident?
I absolutely believe I would, yes.
So talk a little bit about that. I mean, what's that really? I mean, because to me, that tells a really big story of the days we live in today in this country, that you actually believe, and I think most people would, if you were wearing a hat that said Black Lives Matters, you would have been treated differently and probably serviced that day. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And I think the service would have been handled very expeditiously. And it's very sad and disturbing to have to draw this conclusion. But this conclusion is based upon what I've observed of my fellow citizens, my friends, my family, people on social media, people in government. Like what's happening to you, you're being shunned because of your willingness to have a conversation with Alex Jones.
Right.
You've got people distancing themselves from you.
Right.
That's totally inappropriate and repugnant to what America is supposed to be. I think the prevalence that this is a symptom of a real serious problem eating away at the very fabric of our society. And it's like tribalism. There's some terms going around for it now. People call it tribalism.
Sure.
It's so sad to see. It makes me very, very depressed, but depression is a part of life, not in a debilitating way, but there's some depression that comes out of this. There's some very disturbing emotions.
You put a lot into it. The energy you put in has got to be exhausting, right? You put the energy in. I'm assuming you actually don't go into one of these investigations without doing research and preparing. And when you go in, you're putting it all in. Let me ask you, though, in regards to the reaction sometimes from law enforcement, I did get a chance to see, again, with Tim Riley here, talking about his activism work here in Connecticut and abroad, or throughout the country. What happened at the courthouse? I saw that there was an interesting sort of dialogue there where you were going into the courthouse, you had an order to appear, and they were denying you access because of a mask. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
Talk that through quickly. We got about 5 minutes before we wrap up.
Yeah, I was at the time and still am very well versed in the executive orders issued by Governor Ned Lamont, and there are exceptions to the order, if you will. I've done a very, very in-depth, a ton of very in-depth research on peer-reviewed studies, real-world application peer-reviewed studies conducted on human beings over the course of years, like decades, published in the New England Journal of Medicine, for example, just some of the things I could think of off the top of the head here. Mm-hmm. And I absolutely refuse to wear a mask. I haven't been wearing a mask in any of the grocery stores or any places I go in public for this entire crisis, if you will. I refuse to wear a mask going into the courthouse. If the judge was going to demand that I wear a mask to be present in the courtroom, I would have had to surrender my rights to that degree. But to get into my public building and actually, get in and be there for my appearance and file with the clerks, what I need to file and all that good stuff, I was not willing to put on a mask. And the marshals inside of the courthouse were the most egregious. Trooper Wilson wasn't so bad. He just refused to concede. But the marshals were out of control. They physically put their hands on me. That's crossing a line right there. That's simple battery. and they're telling me I have no access to my building unless I put on a mask, and that's going to jeopardize the safety of my daughter. This is a family court case going on there, and I was just blown away. So I walked back to the car and got my camera, and I didn't.
So this
come
is
there
not you didn't anticipate that day to film.
No, I thought I'd be able to get right in. I had a lanyard on. I think I had a lanyard with me, or I was at least citing, some sort of exemption in the statutes and my rights. And no one wanted to hear it. I said, "Ma'am, you're in a law enforcement uniform and you know nothing of the law. You're supposed to be, aiding me and abetting me and helping me exercise my rights here and help me gain entry into my court, into our courthouse, pursuant to Title 18, Section 242 U.S. Code." Like, what are you doing, man? How can you be in law enforcement and not know the laws? So I walked back to my car, got my video equipment, which was in the car because there was a salon rally for all of the salon owners who were shut down at the last minute when they were supposed to be allowed to reopen, which is a mystery unto itself because these are perhaps some of the cleanest facilities in the state.
Right.
A hell of a lot cleaner than a deli, for example. But anyway, I came back with the camera, and I thought by doing that, I could change the environment a little bit, get the guard of my public servants to drop. Maybe they'll lose their attitude. Maybe they'll be a little more professional. And in the end, it wasn't the case. I was not allowed to enter the building. So I ended up wrapping my wife's scarf around my face. I got extremely horrible blood pressure issues. I've got blood sugar issues. I've got a number of health issues going on, and restricting my airways and restricting my oxygen for the length of time I was in court was literally making me see stars. I was lightheaded. I was having a hard time breathing. I keep on trying to pull the thing down to get a breath. The marshals are ready to jump on me. They got gloves on. They're ready to go hands on with me. These guys are ready to tackle me and arrest me for trying to breathe.
Right.
Well, I'm there to represent my daughter and I in a very
So you did not get arrested on this incident, this particular situation. You were able to gain access by complying to the direction. I did see the trooper, and you kind of had a really good dialogue on the side there. Tim, I got to tell you that this is a conversation we want to continue to have. I think we're winding down to a few more minutes here before we wrap up. And I appreciate you taking time today. Why don't you let the listeners know again of News Rocky where they can find you and your work. And go ahead if you want to say that right now.
Excellent. Well, I do have a web domain. It's www.tyrantslayerstudios.com. It is under construction. It's not quite ready yet, but it'll be up and running. We'll say, give me another 30 days or so. You can find my YouTube channel, Tyrant Slayer Studios, just by searching Tyrant Slayer Studios. That's TYRANT Slayer, SLAYER Studios, STUDIOS. You can check out my work and the work of the 21 colleagues I have around the nation who are covering a number of topics, not just First Amendment activism and or racial issues or audits, but Second Amendment activism. I mean, we've got a guy, Solo Yacker, down in Florida who goes fishing while he open carries just to see if he can exercise his right to bear arms unimpeded and unobstructed, unquestioned, without being illegally detained. We got a lot going on. You can find them on Activism News Network on Roku. You can subscribe to our Roku channel. I think it's $3.99 a month. We've got a special, if you will, kind of going on. I think you get the first 3 days free. It might even be a week. You'll have to check the site. Sorry, I'm not completely up to date on that, but that's www.activismnewsnetwork.com. And you can go ahead and subscribe to the Roku channel there. I believe we're streamable on almost every device now. We've got some good things going on with Google and Apple. I think we're going to be on Amazon Fire Stick and all that stuff as well.
Awesome.
So we'll basically be able to be streamed anywhere, and you'll be able to keep up on the latest and greatest of the auditing community and the activist community around the nation anytime you so please.
Thank you, Tim. Right. And again, Tim, I want to say thank you. We'll definitely talk offline, get you back on here. We're going to wrap up the show here with News Rocky today. Guys, I just want to tell you that I know a lot of you folks that listen to News Rocky, I'm a definite supporter of Blue Lives Matters. I am a back the blue concept, but I'm also the person who wants to get in that room, get in the ring, rather, with those people that might have a differing opinion. I'm learning things each each and every day that we have these interviews and these opportunities to learn things from like Tim today. The fact that he is actually calling out the actual constitutional rights of an American citizen is something we should all want, something we should all fight for. The fact that he actually went into a state building here in Connecticut, and because he was wearing something that is affiliated with Donald Trump, a hat, he was denied access. And in his opinion, if he had had a hat on that said Black Lives Matters or Joe Biden for president, it was his opinion that possibly he wouldn't have had the same reaction. This is a sad world we live in, and we need people to challenge it. We also need to understand law enforcement professionals across this country. They are doing a high demand job. We need to show them respect and appreciate them. And I will say that most of the videos I've been able to see from Tim have been nothing but a respectful dialogue, challenging the authority in a right way. I don't think that we should be going out attacking law enforcement, and I don't see that from Tim's group, and I hope that's not what the mission is. We'll look forward to hearing more from Tim Riley and his activism and his group, keeping News Rocky fans updated on that. Guys, we went in the ring today with what we'll call an activist and someone that we don't necessarily align with, but we definitely respect. Tim Riley, thanks for coming on the show today. Thanks for tuning in to News Rocky. We'll see you tomorrow, Monday through Friday. We come from Norwich with the Forward TV network each and every day, bringing it to you in the ring.